Comrie. Thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I would like to say thank you for being you. You've made my day.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad to have made your day. You're making my day today also. So I'm Jill. I'm the programs chair for BPW Edmonton, and BPW International is part of a larger group. We have a seat with the UN, and our goal is to really advocate and empower women. So on the Edmonton level, our theme for this year is powerful influence. And we thought, what better way to encourage powerful influence with our membership than to talk to some of the most influential people in Edmonton, being the mayoral candidates. So that's what brings us here today.
That's pretty awesome. I think that's, as you've got a seat on the UN, and I did a little bit of research, and I'm quite impressed with the whole program. I think it's a wonderful, not so much concept, but I think it's a mission, and it's a wonderful mission. So if there's any way that I can help, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Awesome, love to hear that. Today, really our goal is to give our community a better understanding of who you are as a person and your leadership style and what your values are. So I'll just jump right into it. Our vision is to one day have a world where everyone reaches their full potential. And being a potential mayoral candidate, it's so important for you to rely on your team and to empower them. So can you tell us about how you do that? How do you empower your team to be their very best so that they can support you to be your very best?
Well, I think everybody's got ideas, and I think sharing ideas and collaborating with people is a key element to success. And I think everybody's voice needs to be heard. Matters not who you are. And I think from that, good things happen. So opening doors and collaborating, allowing people to contribute is really the key to success. So I don't think I can say any more than that. I just think that everybody has something to say, and out of that, there's always good things that come.
Great. And I know it's really top of mind for so many people right now, focusing on their own mental wellness. How is that something that you do for yourself? How do you make sure that you are checking in with your own mental health, and how do you promote that within your team?
Well, it's really funny because back in the late 70s, I took a course at NAIT, and it was called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And it was self-awareness and to understand really who you are as a person. And I don't mind saying, I think all of us have felt through COVID and some of the climate issues that we've been faced with. The lack of sunlight is an example. Being shut in for a year and a half with COVID has played a factor on mental health. And I also have issue with the current government actually not working hard enough to help people and everyday people. I'm talking everyone. It's not, when we talk about mental issues, we're not talking about people that are in hospitals and things, yet they could be, but just everyday people that struggle. And I think I don't think governments have done enough to recognize.
Is that why you're running for mayor?
There's a number of issues, but when I mentioned a minute ago, I mentioned about the current government. I couldn't be more disappointed with where we are as a city today. I was born and raised here. I'm the fourth generation. My sons will be the fifth generation of my family, business owners and entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you what, we've seen so much better from the city of Edmonton, and we're on a path of economic financial collapse if we don't alter our path.
And what do you think it's going to take to alter that path? What are some things that you want to make sure that do happen if you do become our mayor?
Well, sometimes outside forces do that. And I can see the federal government overspending. I can see the city of Edmonton overspending. And I ask, we need to define wants versus needs. And is the LRT, for example, each line is said to be in somewhere around $300 million of taxpayers' money. each line. And there's a number of lines that are being built as we speak. Is it a want or is it a need? And I see the homeless, I see crime escalating. I see issues in our inner city. I see the downtown core when the White Avenue is a good example. Listen, I see nothing but distress, and I'd rather see our funding and our money go toward issues like you talk about: mental health, suicide, substance abuse, homelessness, and fighting crime. I think we could do a much, much better job and spend less money doing it. Functionality is the key.
You mentioned homelessness and mental health. Are those, do you think, the most important social challenges that we're facing as a city?
I think it's one of them. I think crime is maybe right next to homelessness. Crime and all of those are followed from poor economic conditions. And I've said this before. I'll say it many times before the election: is the federal government and policy from the federal government that's been pushed upon municipalities and or accepted by the municipalities, the mayor in particular, we're trying to be something we're not. And quite often I use this phrase that I feel like we're living in a European municipality, and that's a misfit to Western society because we can't be what we're not. And the roadway system is critical to economic stability. And I see people that have no driver's license, no license plates, and no insurance that are driving in the middle of our roadway system. The roadway system has always been an artery that feeds the heart, which contributes to economic stability. And the more we upset that, the more financial hardship we have. But that financial hardship comes out in homelessness, in crime, in mental health, in social wellness. And I see a city in distress. That's why I'm here today.
So you mentioned that we're trying to be something that we're not. What is it that we're supposed to be?
Well, functionality is critical. So sometimes when you try to do too much, first of all, do we have the money to do what we're doing? We don't. It's been said by all three levels of government. So is that responsible then that we go on this mission to spend excessively? Where does that end? My grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? I mean, someone's going to pay this debt. And one of the worries for me is when governments, we have a federal government or federal election coming up, and funny things happen in elections. All of a sudden, there's a change of platforms, and what does that do financially to municipalities? All of a sudden, now that we're relying on liberal policy to support the programs we have that we can't afford, that a new government comes in and says, guess what? There never was the money. So now there isn't the money. Now what do we do? So I think it's quite irresponsible where we are today. And I'm quite concerned about that. I would consider myself a fiscal conservative. And I think that we can run a much tighter ship and the end result would be better for everyone.
What do you think is our number one financial challenge as a city?
Stop spending. Stop spending.
How
Like
do we
we're
do that?
spending. Well, it's easy. One of my platforms is plebiscite on LRT. I want to give you the chance to decide whether or not we continue or we don't. And one of the issues that I raise is let's continue. Let's do that. But you see, the other downfalls are homelessness. Someone says to me, well, how are you going to, you want to be the mayor? How are you going to cure homelessness? Well, we're spending $350 million on one line of taxpayers' money we don't have. I think that money should be going to the homelessness. It should be going to fight crime. I mean, can you imagine being a police officer in this city? I mean, it's easy to blame the police officer for delivering the ticket or being part of the issue, but where is that message coming from? It's coming from policy. Someone is creating policy, and I suggest that our federal policy is a misfit um, to it's a misfit to our municipality, and it's like someone saying to you, you know how much money you make every month. Someone said, you know, I'm going to give you $1 million. We'll come calling one day to find out how you're going to pay it back. You know, you'd be very wise to say, you know, I don't think I want that. But you see, our municipality's been taking the money and then spending it, I would suggest, irresponsibly, because I'm concerned about social wellness, mental health, crime, and the homeless. Like, I took a walk downtown in Chinatown the other day, and my goodness, we can do so much better. And here we are spending money unnecessarily on projects that aren't a need.
You talk a lot about the LRT, and so for sure there's two sides of the fence on this one. But a lot of people see the LRT as an essential tool for them to live a good life, to get to their jobs, to travel more efficiently, to spend less time getting to work and more time, living. So what do you say to those people?
Well, I think we have to be careful as a municipality not to plan too far in advance. Of course, that might defy thinking from yesterday. And when we say thinking from yesterday, boy, we better start planning way into the future while technologies are changing. Is it right we plant these tracks on the ground that disrupt? I mean, functionality is the key here. And when we talk to people now, the downtown core, how important is it? How important is the downtown core, having gone through COVID? I want you to know who I am. In 2003, I owned an automotive repair shop I closed, and I built a mobile tire company for my two sons. We operate without brick and mortar. In other words, we don't have a storefront at all. We are 100% mobile. So when COVID hits, all of a sudden, all these high-rise office towers in the downtown core are vacant. And why are they vacant? It's because people can't come to work because of COVID protocol. But also, it's wise for someone to have recognized this is an opportunity that we can have people work remotely. Well, the next thing you know, we've got a real big problem in the downtown core. So you say, or some people say, the LRT is going to provide transportation. It also provides debt, and it also provides a criminal activity. It also provides, it will never pay for itself fundamentally. So it's something that the taxpayer has to decide. Do we continue to subsidize a project that's massive, that's a massive project, and what is its ultimate goal? Where is it going to go from and to? Like, do we envision? I look at the Mill Woods model. My goodness, the Mill Woods model, bobbing and weaving through city streets to get to where? The downtown core. And I'm going to wonder how many people are going to ride that. See, I hear it all day long when people say, you know what, I don't see anybody on the LRT. So the peak times in the morning and later in the day prior to COVID is one thing. Now we're dealing with after COVID, and guess what? Ridership may never be there. Yet our foot is on the gas pedal, full steam ahead on spending LRT. And is it necessary? Is what I ask. I mean, here's another way to look at it. Maybe that money should go towards separate riding paths for bicycling and scooters, to get scooters off the road. I had an do I have time to comment one more? I ran in, okay, so I had an interesting experience driving in a company-owned minivan, which is deckled. I come up behind a scooter, and the scooter is doing 20 kilometers an hour in a 50-kilometer speed zone. Well, see, my business operates, time is important because we schedule so many jobs and activities throughout the course of a day. So when I'm on the roadway, I need to get from point A to point B. So I come across a scooter, I go around the scooter, he comes up to the light, my window's down, and he's mad at me for some reason. But here I find out he's got no driver's, I shouldn't say that, he's got no license plate, he's got no insurance, and he's not I'm confident to say that he would be mentally challenged, and here he is driving on a roadway. So he's gone through no process to determine whether he even should be on a roadway. Like he could be unstable mentally. And, I'm not trying to pick on that, but what I'm trying to say is here's someone on the roadway who's all of a sudden now taunting a vehicle with no license plate, most likely no insurance, most likely no license at all. Man, oh man, now we've got a real problem. See, it takes away from the purpose of the roadway system, which is to get from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know so many people love these scooters, but having them on the roads causes problems. Having them on the sidewalk causes other problems. So how do we address that? That's a really good
Well, let me
topic too.
let me go back, because you said, what would you do? What would you do to change? Or how do you see this is a functional issue? And so do we decide as a society, when I talk about a European municipal model, in Europe, you walk across streets, you don't worry about the crosswalk, the lighting systems and everything, and but in Western society, that automobile is critical to economic stability. And when I say the automobile, transportation is critical to that. And we've upset that now. And now I saw the other day, there's a gentleman who was walking, never said anything, but I recognized and noticed, because this is important to me. He decides to walk not on the sidewalk, but in the middle of the road. And I'm wondering to myself, the sidewalk is there. Why wouldn't you use the sidewalk? And I honestly believed he was walking to get in a vehicle. There was 3 vehicles in line. And in my mind, it must be that he's going to his vehicle. But I waited around long enough to find out he didn't. He just kept walking. So we've really got a problem with, we need to identify the purpose of the roadway system. And we also need to have it licensed properly, so that that we're certain if something was to happen, it isn't the automobile's fault.
Right. We want to make sure that everyone is protected. Absolutely.
Well, safe. Want to be sure everyone is safe. I mean, that's the big thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a specific, just moving on to the next topic here, do you have a specific statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion? It's something that we're talking about a lot in our community, and it's been top of mind for a lot of the candidates. Do you have a specific statement that you would share?
I don't at this point, but I'm all in favor of. I mean, I think it's important, and I don't think it is something that we shouldn't address. I think it's something that should be top of mind, and I don't have, but my new website's coming out shortly, and it'll be on.
Mm-hmm. What does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you?
Involvement, equality. That we're not that we're recognized. I support free speech, and in this run to be the mayor, I've noticed that the city of Edmonton is not hosting any mayoral forums. And I have a bit of an issue with that, because what happens then is you have private groups who have decided to invite you or not invite you based on their own agenda. So therefore, you've got candidates, not just myself, but others, that their voice won't be heard. And I think it's important that your voice be heard. So when we talk about equity and equality and inclusion, I mean, everybody has a right. Everyone should have the same right as another, and that no one person is more important than the other. We're all the same.
I love that. Okay, this is the last question. Is there anything else that you want our community to know or walk away with a takeaway about who you are as a candidate?
Our greatest threat is ideology, but our crisis is functionality. And the crisis falls on the municipality. And functionality is top of mind for me. That if we are, which we are, a dysfunctional city, then the cost is incalculable. The cost is enormous, and it's incalculable. And we go back again, I'm sorry to say, but the LRT is one that has massive implications to functionality. And if we decide as a community that we need to continuously subsidize the LRT, someone needs to ask, and I'd rather we ask now than ask 3 more lines later, which would be 3 more lines, would be another $1 billion of City of Edmonton taxpayers' money, that we decide this is something we should continue or not. And let me add to that. The more they build LRT, the more it upsets busing. The more the busing is upset, the less coverage for the people that need it. So the people that need busing can't get busing because we're spending all our money and changing the bus scheduling stops per se, like they're always they're continuously being changed. But as they change, because we're bringing in more LRTs, the next thing you know, we have busing on demand. Okay, so now you've got a major expense in LRT. Now you've upset your busing, that people rely on busing. Now you've got busing on demand, which is another hit to the taxpayer. At what point do we recognize this isn't working? Right. So our greatest threat is ideology, and our crisis is functionality.
So I know that'll mean a different thing to different people. So I just want to clarify, what do you mean when you say our biggest threat is ideology?
It's my belief that that climate change is upon us, and that we must do everything we can within our power without decimating municipalities. Let me say this, it would be irresponsible for anyone to think we don't need oil. We have the 3rd largest reserves in the world. But our federal government has decided that Alberta's oil isn't worthy of taking it out of the ground. So ideology is coming from the federal government, and you know who I'm speaking to or speaking of. Is his mission is to close down, and he's made his statements, but it's irresponsible. And where you see the irresponsible is in debt, continuously spending money he doesn't have. You see it in jobs, in job creation. We've got the 3rd largest oil reserve in the world, and here we are now. Here's the bigger one. Eastern Canada is getting their oil from somewhere else. So ideology is unfortunately not in the favor of Albertans and Edmontonians. So the way the federal government stands now is a threat to us as a municipality, and it's irresponsible for us to continue to spend money that is being pushed upon us. We should not accept that money, and we must find a way to stand on our own 2 feet, the City of Edmonton, and recreate recirculation of dollars, trade and commerce right here in our community. And that involves letting the spenders spend, letting them spend.
Well, Rick, I can feel through the screen just how much you care about this city. So thank you so much for your time. I know our community at BPW Edmonton is excited to hear more about your campaign leading up to the October 18th election. So thank you so much for your time and speaking with us so candidly about who you are.
Congratulations on a job well done. And I want to say that thanks for making my day.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to.
To meet you too. Take care.
Take care.
Great. Bye, Rick. See you soon.
Bye-bye.